Hi everyone, I'm Jaspreet Singh, your identity and security consultant. In this lab from my F11.ca hybrid identity research environment, I'm setting up the foundation for a secure hybrid identity deployment. Many environments simply install Azure AD Connect or and Microsoft Entra ID Connect and move on, but that often leads to weak security architecture. So in this lab, I'm doing three things: deploying Azure AD Connect in a proper architecture, synchronizing on-prem Active Directory with Microsoft Entra ID, establishing a secure baseline using conditional access policies. This lab builds on the previous infrastructure lab where I created a segmented environment using a Sophos firewall, VLANs, and multiple domain controllers. Let's quickly look at the architecture. In my lab, I have a Sophos XGS firewall handling network segmentation, a Dell switch with multiple VLANs, an HP G9 server running the virtual machines. Inside the environments, I have two domain controllers for redundancy, a dedicated Entra ID Connect server. This reduces the attack surface and gives more flexibility for hardening. The client machine is also running in a different network segment, so I can test authentication behavior across VLAN boundaries. Let me show you the diagram. So this is how my architecture looks like. As I said already, client machine is already running on a different VLAN segment, which is VLAN 20. I have one management virtual machine. Entra ID Connect is also on the VLAN 10, which is on different VLAN, and the Win controllers are on different VLAN. As you can see, VLAN 5. Necessary ports are allowed, other ports are blocked. Now let's look at Azure AD Connect or Microsoft Entra ID Connect. During installation, I chose custom configuration rather than express setup. This allows better control over synchronization. For authentication, I selected password hash synchronization. These are the few reasons for this. Password hash synchronization is simple, resilient, and works well for most hybrid environments. It also avoids additional infrastructure complexity that comes with password authentication. Next, I enable seamless single sign-on, which allows domain-joined devices to authenticate without repeatedly entering credentials, and it's convenient for the users as well. And another important step here, which I did, is setting up OU filtering. Instead of synchronizing the entire Active Directory domain, I only synchronize specific organizational units that contain the account required for services. This limits exposure. After configuration, I ran the initial synchronization cycle to push users to Microsoft Entra ID. Let me show you the other screen where I have set up these options. As you can see, this is the Microsoft Entra ID server where I've selected the password hash synchronization to synchronize authentication method and as well as enable single sign-on, validating hybrid identity. Once synchronization is complete, the next step is validation. Inside the Microsoft Entra ID portal, I can see the users now marked as synced from on-prem Active Directory. This confirms hybrid identity is functioning. I also verify authentication behavior through the sign-in logs. This is crucial step that many administrators skips. The log shows authentication methods, conditional access evaluation, device information, location of the sign-in. So let's validate the log. So let's go to the users and you can see on-prem sync attribute is like yes, which means Bob Steve, the user is from on-prem Active Directory that has been synced with Microsoft Entra ID Cloud. And those users which are showing no, which means they are created in Microsoft M365 Entra portal, but not an on-prem account. All right, so let's go and check the logs for this Bob Steve. As you can see, this user was able to successfully log in. My location is this Regina, Canada, and device info you can see Windows 10, Azure AD registered device, join type, he logged in from the device, authentication details, first sector MFA satisfied, conditional access, these policies required. This confirms that authentication pipeline is functioning. Establishing security baseline. Now the hybrid identity is working. The next step is establishing a security baseline. The first control I implemented is admin MFA enforcement. Administrative accounts should always require multi-factor authentication. The second policy that I created is legacy authentication. The next policy I created is a conditional access policy to block legacy authentication. Legacy authentication protocols such as basic authentication can bypass MFA entirely, which make them a common attack vector. Blocking them is one of the most important security controls in Microsoft Entra environment. I also configured named locations so trusted network locations can be identified properly. Let me show you the name location that I create. As you can see, this is the Canada office and India, which is not added into policy, which means it's not in a trusted location. Finally, I captured the secure baseline. The identity secure score has improved from 45 to 65%, which is significant. So this gives me a reference point for measuring improvements as additional security controls are implemented in later labs. Testing and validation. To validate the configuration, I performed several sign-in tests from the Windows 11 client machine. The users were able to authenticate successfully using their synchronized credentials. Inside the Entra sign-in log, I confirmed that authentication method was password hash synchronization and that conditional access policies were being being evaluated. Monitoring sign-in log is extremely important because it provides visibility into authentication help activity and helps detect suspicious behavior. As I've showed in my previous slide, through Microsoft 365 Entra portal, sign-ins were successful, users were able to authenticate using password-based authentication, conditional access policies were being evaluated. There are few important lessons learned from this lab. Hybrid identity is not just about synchronization. It is the foundation for many modern security controls, including conditional access, identity protection, password spread detection, device-based access policies. If the hybrid foundation is misconfigured, all of those protections become weaker. That's why architecture and validation matter just as much as deployment. In the next lab, I will simulate a password spray attack against the hybrid environment to observe how Microsoft Entra Detect responds to credential-based attack. That's where things get really interesting. If you're building your own lab or working with hybrid identity environments, I hope this walkthrough helps you understand and how to design and validate a secure foundation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lab.